Chapter 47. The Hidden Agendas. What would happen if starting tomorrow, we fed the world with 5 hours a day of images and sounds, showing people caring, people feeling happy, thankful for being able to help, people being happy, grateful for being helped? Would we then, the next day, walk out of the door, afraid of what might happen to us next? Or would most of our worries have suddenly faded? Could it be that simple? All of the representatives had now entered the large conference room. The first ever annual World Anti-Shiver Conference, in short, the AWASH Conference, was about to start. Cameras were rolling by the hundreds, a media circus as the world had rarely seen before. Then again, this was truly a unique event. Not only the Super 30, representing all of the world's major powers, were attending. No, this time, the Upper 14, who were in charge of the world economics, the Great Seven, representing the major religions, and the so-called independent United Heads of Justice had been invited too. Even the World Banking Corporation, Count on Us, and the United Global Insurance Companies, Just Trust Us, were present, although some wondered if these two should have been invited. Anyhow, just say that anybody who was the slightest bit concerned with the problem of global world shivering was invited and present. The AWASH Conference was about to begin. What? You've never heard about the AWASH Conference? Never heard about the Shiverins either? Sorry, I didn't realize. I thought everybody knew about them. Well, let me tell you then. The Shiverins were, how should I say? Well, actually, come to think of it, they hadn't stolen their name, as they were shivering all the time. They shivered in fear. Yes, they were afraid. Afraid of just about anything you could imagine. They were afraid to go to work, but even more of losing their job. Afraid of not having enough money. Afraid of getting sick. Afraid of growing old. Afraid of, well, you name it, and they were afraid of it. They would cling on to whatever they had, afraid of losing it, afraid of it getting worse if they ever moved. Nobody really understood how it had ever come this far. Fortunately, it was all about to end now. They all agreed it had to be stopped. Over the past years, the different organizations and interest groups had studied the problem to find out what could be done. For several years in closed circles, they had discussed the problem. The first group that had started debating the problem, it was now 3 years ago, had been the Super 30. Very important people they were, very powerful too. Their job was to protect the Shiverin interests, defend them, take care of them. They would analyze the problem, they said, see what could be done. That day, too, the cameras had been rolling, not to miss the Super 30, as they entered the big gold meeting room and shut the door behind them. No one allowed inside, it read on the door. Not to be disturbed in our important decisions, so they said. They had them all over by now, these meeting rooms. Everywhere where the mighty 30 had an interest to protect, they had them. The off-limits meeting rooms. What happened behind these meeting doors? Nobody knew exactly. Were the mighty 30 truly concerned with the Shiverins' well-being? Did they really have the Shiverins' best interests at heart? Some said they didn't. Some said they only served their own interests. Could it be? Fear will govern the world, it read on a big sign. The same sign was to be found in all of the meeting rooms. It was written all over, on the chairs, the walls, above the projection screens, even in the hearts of those present. From the moment they got in, that was all that was on their mind. Fear will govern the world. That was their credo. That is what they all lived by. Whatever they said on the other side of the blue golden doors, whatever they said before they got in, it didn't matter. You could lie, you could cheat, you could turn the truth around. It all didn't matter. As long as you respected the prime rule, and as long as you never told the outsiders about this prime rule. As soon as the doors had closed, they all agreed on one thing. They had to keep the Shiverins shivering, because that was the only way to keep them under control. Whatever they wanted to obtain, they all knew this basic simple trick. Just scare the living daylights out of the Shiverins, then bring them the solution, and they will follow you wherever you go. Deceiving and misleading, of course, was allowed. In fact, it was the name of the game. How else could you keep the Shiverins shivering? "Oh, I am sorry," said the wizard. "Did I give you the impression that I was talking about the politicians? I mean, as if they were the cause of all troubles? Well, in a way, I wish I was, because then the problem would have been easily solved. No, unfortunately, the Super 30 only occupied a few of the meeting rooms, just a couple of hundred, maybe. But there were many more. There were several thousand. The Upper 14, the Great Seven, the United Heads of Justice, the Count on Us Corporation, the United Just Trust Us companies. They all had their own big meeting rooms, and although none of them would ever admit it, they all had the same credo. Keep them Shiverins shivering. Yes, they all did their utmost to keep the Shiverins under control, using that simple little trick they had. Be afraid. Be afraid. Afraid of your neighbor. Afraid of the strangers. Afraid of the future. Afraid of losing your money, your house, the things you need so badly, the things you couldn't do without. Afraid. Afraid. Afraid to be robbed, to lose your job, lose your pension fund, lose your Social Security, lose your life. What life? And then, of course, there was the media. They only reported what they saw, they said. They didn't lie, only reported the truth. So what did they show? They showed the Super 30, the Upper 14, the Great Seven, telling the world to beware. And then they showed examples, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, proving the point of what these great minds had just said. And the Shiverins? They shivered on. Sometimes, however, the media missed some minor event. Could you blame them with all the frightening misery that was going on? Here is one of the things they missed. As the AWASH conference started, another conference started as well. The media had heard of it, but they hadn't paid any attention to it. It was just a conference organized by a group of Shiverins with one intention only, to make the other Shiverins aware of what was truly happening, so that they could fight the system and become free again, free to live without the false, fabricated fears. Shaoni understood this was the really important event, because it was fear that blocked the energies from flowing. Fear was the opposite of love, not hate, as so many thought. Hate was only a consequence of unreasonable fear. The really important event happened just a bit further down the road. Unfortunately, this time, the media just missed it.